Hi everyone, it's Kim. Thanks for joining me. When my creative mojo starts to run low, I oftentimes find it better if I just stop thinking about what is it that I need to make and just spend some time playing and experimenting and not having anything in particular in mind. And that's what I've been doing the past couple weeks. And I want to start with this one that is a nod to the Chinese Lunar New Year, the fire horse. I've seen a lot of beautiful things that people have done, their interpretation of the fire horse, and having read a little bit about it, what it represents. So, this did not come out as a pre planned project. I was down digging through my stash looking for something in particular, and I came across these pieces, and I thought, you know what, that would work for my fire horse. So for my horse, this is an old die from Spellbinders that I purchased at a craft sale called Lucky Horse, and there's that horseshoe that I needed about a month ago for a card that I made. My stamp for this is from Spellbinders. I purchased this at Tuesday morning long ago. It is called Cool Vibes. And finally, for my sentiment, I think I got this stamp set years ago at probably a craft fair or a craft show. A stamp and scrapbook show is going to be my guess. This is from Invoke Arts, which I can't say that I've ever heard of before. But when I read through these, The Time Is Now, I thought would be perfect for my fire horse card. Pretty basic. The one thing that I did do when I used this stamp, there's actually 3 different colors of distress ink that I used, and I'm just going to tell you the general color because I don't remember the exact name of the color. But the first layer, I put this in my Misty, and then the first layer I stamped, the color was a yellow color, and then I cleaned that off with a towel. The second color was orange, cleaned that off, and then used a red color as my top layer. Wiped my stamp clean. I never took it out of the Misty, just wiped it off with a towel. Lightly spritzed the stamp, pressed it down so those colors would run a little bit, meld together. And then just to give the stamp some definition again, I wiped the water off the stamp, re-stamped it with the red, and that was my top layer of the stamp for the 3 different colors. Then, because the stamp did not fill up the whole card base, I just used those same 3 colors and filled in the white space around the edge. And then the one newer product, the new die cut that I used, is from All and Create. And that is the Roadway Vistas die cut. I really have enjoyed using this. So this is solid on the back. So the frame just kind of goes around the edge. And there's more than 2 dies, but the 2 dies that I used for this, I cut the main card base, which was originally white cardstock, out using this die. And then this is the one that I use for like the black frame around it. So I have really gotten a lot of use out of this. And then I can just mount this on top of a card base, a folded card, if I want to mail that out. But that was my inspiration, just to play and enjoy myself. Nothing in particular in mind. I'm not making this for anything in particular. I just had fun playing and experimenting a little bit. Another one that I wanted to do, use the stage pop-up from Karen Burniston. And some of these are older stamps and dies, but I am fascinated by this stage. And again, I could put this in a card base if I wanted, or I can just stand it up and enjoy it as is. I don't have to put it in a card base. I know that this is 6 inches across, and I don't get real hung up on how high this is because I know I can get a manila envelope that's 6x9 that this would fit in. And the manila envelopes I can get in white. And I think I found a 6x9 envelope, I want to say at Michael's, I believe. So I could still put this in a regular envelope or one of the business like manila envelopes that have the flaps at the top. That would work as well. But I know I could mail this. Definitely probably going to cost me extra postage, but that's okay if I don't want to put this in a card base. So I've got some options there. But let me show you what I used for this one. So the stage pop-up is the main base there. And then I had the rocket pop-up from Karen as well. So I just used the rocket ship and I put it on a piece of acetate that's sandwiched between like the fold there. And I could make that fairly tall. So it really looks like my spaceship is going off the earth there. What are we taking off? What's the word we want to use? My earth is an old Sizzix die from Tim Holtz, and he has 3 of these different globes in different sizes. This one is the mini globe. It just fit perfectly on my stage base there. And then I also knew from Simon Says a long time ago I had purchased this die, and this is called You Are My Universe. It was the stamps plus the coordinating dies for the stamps. Most of them are just circles, but we've got Saturn here that's a little different. So I just glued those around the edge. I didn't worry about lining them up in universe order. I just put them on there. This one is a planet, but I thought, well, that's going to be my little moon for the Earth, and I just used that little die cut from the stage die set and put that little L bracket on there to hold my moon. So again, I was just playing. I knew I had these older stamps and dies, and I could combine it with the new stage die. I'm really fascinated by that stage die. So not hard, fun to play with, fun just to create and experiment. Now I had another idea for the stage pop-up, something I wanted to use, and I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to tell you where I got my inspiration from. So this is the other one. I used the stage pop-up, and I can pop that up, and I've got my popcorn box. I wanted to put this box on there, but I have this piece attached to the back, and that was inspired from someone on Instagram under Cat Rocks Crafting. In fact, Karen refers to her when she talks about her stage pop-up in the video that she made on how to put this together. And if you're on Instagram, look her up. She has some incredible ideas. And before Karen came out with this die, apparently she die cut her own, or excuse me, she hand cut her own stage bases. So it's pretty incredible to see what she has done, but she uses a backing like this, like the card backing that she attaches to the back of the stage. And she has so much inspiration on her Instagram. So if you are in Instagram, check her out. I think you'll be just wowed at what all she has done. And that got me started on this. Again, when I fold this up, this is 6 by, I think this was 8 inches, but I know it will fit in a 6 by 9 envelope. And I just played. I literally just played. One thing that I did learn is this is a pretty hefty piece on top of this stage. So my cardstock, my printed cardstock is probably, I'm guessing, about 65 pounds. In the future, if I'm going to have something heavy duty on top, I will use the stage out of 110-pound cardstock and then just cover it with my printed cardstock, because then when I pop it up, it'll pop and it will stay in place. It will hold it more, just because this, I think, is so heavy. It stays up, but it doesn't take much movement for it to pop back down. So let me show you what I used in addition to the stage pop-up for this idea. I used the popcorn die to decorate the outside of the flower pot pop-up, which is the base die of my popcorn box. So my popcorn box fits. I know I can use the flower pop-up on the stage. And then there is also a flower pot add-on, which I use so I could use this base to hold my pot onto the stage. Originally, it would cut out of the base, this piece here. It would cut the holes so the flaps would come up out of your cards, or out of your card base, or in this case, my stage base. And I didn't really want to do that. This makes it so much easier to have a separate piece with those flaps cut out. Then I can just glue that onto my stage and easily adhere that pot. and then just go crazy decorating it, which is what I did with the movie night charms. I made the like kind of fence around the stage using this piece from the base die, but then I decorated it with the frame. So that frame hangs out just a little bit there. You can kind of see how it's above the stage, but that works. Then just went crazy decorating it with all the charm pieces. For the sentiment, I pulled out the stamps and they fit, some of these fit perfectly in the spaces of the frame. So I put ooh, plot twist, and can't wait to see what you do next. I could have used some different ones in there. Again, I have no idea what I'm going to use this for, but just playing and experimenting. And there in the background is that All in Create die again, Roadway Vistas for the frame. And this time I did attach it to a rectangular like card base. I could make like a folding card base behind this if I wanted, or I can just decorate the back and put my message there. On the bottom, I did use movie night and a couple kernels of popcorn to decorate that base, which someone will see if they pull it out of the envelope and then just pop it up. So I had a great time making this. I probably wouldn't make 100 of these because I know it's going to cost me extra postage to mail that. But for a special occasion or for a special person, I would definitely make this and send it to them. I had a great time making this. And for the last one that I was playing with and creating and experimenting with is a card for a guy. Again, this can be used for any occasion. I put happy birthday on it because it matched best what I stamped on the inside. Cruising by to say another year in the fast lane. But this is my little speedometer card. And I can rev up that engine as I open and close the card. So this one was my true experiment to get this to work with one of the pop-up dies from Karen. Let me show you what I used, and then I wanted to show you quickly how I changed that mechanism a little bit to accommodate this speedometer, which is larger than the base mechanism. So my inside, the playful pop-up is what I used for the base. And we'll talk about something I added to this here in just a second. The speedometer is from Spellbinder Speedometer die. There was a whole collection of the speedometer stamps and cars. So I used the speedometer, and then the sentiment is stamped using the cruising by sentiments. So again, I could use that for multiple occasions. And then the car, there was, I think, I can't remember, there's 2 or 3 cars in a truck in this collection. So I used the classic car to decorate the outside. Happy birthday is my often used Word Set 2 birthday die from Karen Berniston. And then on the inside, the label is from the relatively new Greeting Labels die. This is big enough that I can either stamp it or just, write a personal sentiment on it, which is what I really like to do. So let me just show you real quickly how I changed this mechanism to accommodate the speedometer. And I've kind of, for the sake of time, put some of this together already, but I think we'll have enough to show you how to do this if this is something you're interested in. So I already die cut out my speedometer, and I covered the back so that I would have a different color showing out here for the little marks and the numbers. And then I already went ahead and made the mechanism using the playful pop-up. So Karen has a great video on this, so I'm not going to repeat on how to do that. But this is how it is. You can see all the pieces. Now, I did eliminate some of these arms. So let me show you what I did, and we'll just get started. Everything I'm going to show you is in different colors. When I made this for real for my card base, I use all the same color cardstock, but so that you can see it easier, I have different colors. But again, I'd use one color for everything here. So I don't need these arms that come out here on the base because I've got nothing. I mean, mine would come out up here because this is stuck in here kind of upside down or backwards. I mean, if I were to look at it like this is how it would probably be to match what's on the picture. I flipped it up and put it on the top part of my card because I wanted you to see that when I opened my card up. So you can position this either side, doesn't matter. So I don't need these side arms, so I'm going to cut those off. We'll just get rid of those. And for this piece here that makes this move on the back side, the only piece that I need is the one that's going to come through the slot here. And that's this piece. I've lengthened the arm, we'll do that, but that's the piece that's going to go up and down how many miles an hour I'm going. So this little piece that hangs off to the side, I don't need. So I'm going to trim that off now. And I put this whole thing together before I put it into the card base. And I'm going to pull this back out. Okay, so we've got our main piece. Now, when I put this speedometer on here, we'll talk about how I cut the slot in just a minute. But if I match those slots up, you're going to see that this is larger than the edge that I need to attach to the center of my card base. And sorry, I pulled something off, so my little piece there looks kind of rough, but it will still work. And this piece fits into my card base like this. And that's how it makes this piece go back and forth. But I could have lined this up and trimmed this off if I wanted to, so that this piece will attach to my card base, the fold of my card base. But I wanted the whole round speedometer. I didn't want it cut off. So I needed somehow to lengthen that, but I need this movement to go back and forth so my little indicator here moves like it's being revved up. So I'm like, I've got to add a piece to it. And that's what I did here. I don't know if you can see, but there's a little kind of rectangular box that I added up or added to this side with a smiley face of my mechanism. So I took some measurements and I just had a piece of paper that was 1 3/8 inch wide, doesn't matter how long, and I scored it at 3/8, 1 1/8, 1 1/2, 2 1/4, and 2 7/8. The 3/8 is the width of this, and the 1 3/8 is, well, let's look at it this way. The width, 1 3/8, the height, 3/8, to make my little box. So if I just fold it on all those score lines, I can bring this around, and I'm going to trim it off because this is going to tuck in here. I can trim it off right before my 2 7/8. And now let's make our box, and let's just glue that together real quick. And so if you have something else, say you want to attach to this, and this is either too small or you need to make it farther off from the fold of your card, this might be an idea to change that up a little bit. Let's let this dry for just a second here. And then I'm going to attach it to the side with a smiley face. And that will help to lift this off, and then this will work as one. It will continue to push this and move that mechanism back and forth. So let me just glue this on here real quick. We'll give this a second to dry, and then we'll go work on the speedometer there. So I'm just going to butt this up and let that dry. And I do want this to be, smooth across the top because my speedometer is going to cover that. So let's see here. Let me fold it this way, and let's just let that glue dry a second so we can work with that better. So I'm just going to set that aside. Let's take this out because I want to show you about making this slot on the speedometer to match the slot on this mechanism. So when we cut out our mechanism, we have the slot, and we also have another piece here that has the slot to match. Well, I don't want to use this to die cut in here. I'll cut it out, cut this whole thing out. So what I did was make a template. I die cut this whole thing, and I just kept this one piece. So I got rid of this part up here. I just cut in to where the edge of the slot starts on each side, and this is going to be my template. Got rid of the rest of it, and I took this template and I laid it down on my speedometer, and I laid it just kind of below the 20 and the 80, just kind of, figuring this is where my little piece is going to go back and forth. Took a pencil, just outlined the slot part of it, then took my X-Acto knife and carefully just cut that out. So like I have a little bit of a pencil line here, that's not a problem. I can just erase that. But this will now match the slot on the mechanism. The other thing that I needed was underneath here, we have this one arm that goes through the slot, but I needed to lengthen that. That's not going to be big enough to go up by my numbers. So I just took this die, and the one that kind of tapers in, not the straight one, but the one that tapers in is the one that comes up through the slot. And I just laid it down on a piece of paper, and I just extended, I just drew along the die and extended that out so it would have the same shape as this arm does. And I'm going to attach that. So this comes down to about right here. Kind of where these split is where I started. I don't have to do it way down in here. So when I attach it, let's flip it this way. That will line up like that on that piece. Okay, so let's put it together and then how it will go into the card base. So hopefully that's set up a little bit. I did all of this. I put this whole thing together, everything except for this part here, the decorative part, before I put it into the card base. So much easier to manipulate it than after it's in the card base. So I want to attach my speedometer. So this part is going to pop out like this now. This is going to be the part, like pretend this had the smiley face on it. This is going to be the part that sits into my card base like this now. And then this whole piece will move as one when my card folds. And it will work in the same manner, but this piece is just pushing this piece down a little bit and extending it from the center of the card base. So that's going to fit in there like that. But let's put the speedometer on. If I line up my slots here, and that always takes me a minute to try to get that nice and perfect. But now you'll see how the mechanism part is longer, so I can use my whole entire circle, and I find that I see a little bit of that. So I'm just going to use glue dots. Normally when I do this, use glue, because glue dots aren't going to permanently stay in there. But I think this way I can attach it faster, and then we're not waiting for the glue to dry. But again, if you make one of these, don't use glue dots. Now I'm having problems with the glue dots. Use, glue. But again, that does take me a minute, and I won't be using this base since it's got so many different colors. But the glue dots will hold it for now. Okay. So let's match up our slots, and I'm going to turn this from behind. I think I can kind of see, and I kind of just use my fingers to feel it, and then just match that up. I think we're fairly good on that. Let's see here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, not real perfect, are we? Let's see here. This does take me a minute to really try to line those up good. The other thing I want to do is I want to glue the extension onto this little mechanism here before I glue it into the card. Otherwise, I won't be able to get it. So I'm not going to glue it on the back side, because when I poke this through, then it'll look like that. You'll have that little line. I want to put it on this underneath side, which is another reason to do it now and not later. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue down here. And I'm adding it to this piece and not the other piece, in hopes that I don't have a lot of glue, sticking out or someplace where I don't want it. So let me do this. Again, I would let that dry good. Make sure there's no glue squishing out. And then my line here is going to be on the back side instead of the front side. So let me just carefully poke that through, trying not to bend that. And now that will go back and forth when it's in the card base. Because this is kind of long and not stable, it's sort of hard to demo that, but you can see how it goes back and forth. Once it's in your card base, it will work great. And it's got some stability. So I've got this all together now, and I'm ready to glue this into my card base. I'm going to glue this in exactly like the instructions say. This would be my smiley face end. So I'm going to glue it on this side of my card base, opposite of where I'm going to have my decorated part. So I'm going to glue it in like that. And after that sets up, I'm also going to open it up, and I'm going to just glue on this extension that I added. I don't want to glue this part of it. I just want to glue on this extension, because that gives it a more stability. If I didn't do that, it was a little wobbly, and it still stays together as one. So glue this little box that you added, but don't glue onto the mechanism's arm. And once I glue that in there, it's going to work great, because the card will, as it opens and closes, will help to move that arm through that mechanism. So that is how I did it. I know when you see it kind of in the floppy mode, you think, oh, that doesn't work. But trust me, once I got it glued in here, gluing this in base, which would be like the smiley face, and just the top of the box piece that you added, glue that into your card, and then it will move freely and be supported. So I was so thrilled that this turned out. And if you try it, I hope I could explain it clear enough that you could to add this on there, that little box. But again, if you have something bigger or different shape, you try adding a different size box and attaching it into your card. You don't have to use your best cardstock when you're playing, and just see what you can do to change that up a little bit and get even more use out of this die, the playful pop-up. And maybe you want all the arms for whatever it is that you are creating. But that was my playtime for the past couple weeks. I thoroughly enjoyed just literally just playing and not thinking about what am I going to use this for. It's just to have fun and to experiment and play. I learn more sometimes when I play and I make mistakes and I have to figure out a way to change it up to make it work. That's when I truly learn something. So I encourage you to go dig in your stash and combine your new and your old, and just play and enjoy that time of being creative without having to make it for something in particular that you're going to send out. So thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you again in a future video.